So I have been invited to talk about early warning systems, their availability, their adequacy, and how to use them for the anticipation of potential crisis. So I will briefly develop why early warning is important, what are the existing systems and the information gaps. We will have a bit of a closer look at two systems, the ASAP system of the JRC, as well as some impact stories from the GeoClam community before I will conclude the presentation. I want to start with a statement from GeoClam on the purpose of early warning and agricultural production monitoring, which kind of defines the concept in a nutshell by stating that it is about increasing market transparency and improve the food security by producing and disseminating relevant, timely, and I think this is very important, actionable information on agricultural conditions and outlooks of production at national, regional, and global scales. This means this actual information can, in fact, be used to do crop balance sheet for the supply and demand, to be used within policy interventions and the implementation of policy and for investments. But in the now 20 minutes to come, I would like more to concentrate on the aspects of early warning information and how this is used for emergency responses. I think it is clear that especially poor countries, but all countries as such, will be confronted with more frequent and extreme climate events, and that these climate events remain one of the two main drivers of food crisis, so the other driver being conflict. This means that we are in need of improved early warning information to have an earlier response planning. And at the same time, as stated by the flagship report of the Global Commission on Adaptation, out of the 5 investment areas they have detected, the highest potential return for climate adaptation are within the early warning systems. So it makes absolutely sense to invest in a capacity to have better prediction of upcoming negative events affecting, for instance, crop production. If we look at a general risk management framework, then obviously we have the reduce and prevent actions like agricultural research and development. And within the prevent, prepare and respond actions, we find the early warning systems, as well as the contingency planning based on forecast-based action, which has, compared to the early warning systems, which are more immediate, a different timeline. And then there are the restore and recovery action like agricultural risk insurances. In order to understand in how far early warning systems are suitable or adequate to anticipate a potential crisis, we have to understand what kind of linkages in the food system they are addressing. So we have the drivers and the responses, and here you have the drivers separated between the climate drivers like temperature, precipitation, the ozone, and the non-climate factors such as soil fertility, irrigation, use of fertilizers, herbicides, the demography, the economics. And we have the corresponding responses in terms of production, crop production, livestock production, but also the responses, of course, of the non-productive aspects as the incoming, the processing, the transport, the storage, and the retailing. So ideally, we have a food system which is adapted to our drivers so that we ensure availability, access, utilization, and stability, thus guaranteeing food security. And the early warning systems I'm going to talk about, they concentrate on the linkage between the climate and the production aspects, also taking into account some of the non-climate factors, but it's clear that they only address one compartment of the food system, albeit being it really an important building block. Global early warning system and agricultural monitoring systems are around since the 70s. So the first system was JUICE, which is the Global Information Early Warning System of FAO. And as all the other systems that are indicated here on this slide, also JUICE is up and running. So this means that JUICE was then complemented by FuseNet of USAID in the 80s, followed by the MARS system of the European Commission, mainly to forecast crops in Europe, and that was later complemented also with the food security component. Then in 98, the Crop Watch system from the Chinese Academy of Science was kind of initialized. USDA complemented the suite with the Crop Explorer, and more recently we have seen the Seasonal Monitor from the World Food Programme and the ARSIP system from the Joint Research Center. All these global systems are also complemented by national and regional systems like Agri-Food Canada or the system of the USDA NAS or the Brazilian one CONAP. And in addition, since 10 years, we have an international initiative, which was originally a G20 initiative, founded together with AMIS, which is the Agricultural Monitoring and Information System, which is called GeoGLAM, which brings together the whole community and also all these systems to have a holistic and commonly agreed view on crop condition worldwide. And there are two operational products, which are the Crop Monitor, which is up and running since 2013, and the GeoGLAM Early Warning Crop Monitor, which is up and running since 2018. The system itself, they can be rather complex, going from fully automated to expert-driven systems, and they can have meteorological infrastructure, a remote sensing data infrastructure. They can run crop models and have a statistical database to come up with a range of plausible crop yield forecasts, so that at the end of the day, there is a regular production of crop production forecasts as well as bulletins. And some of these systems even have a full component dedicated to the crop area estimation. However, when we look at early warning systems, here I'm mainly interested in the anomaly detection of the crop production. So my systems are very often simplified because the near real-time aspect is also very important. And in general, I'm having a meteorological infrastructure, and I'm working with remote sensing data to do a qualitative reporting on the crop conditions and the production, because I want clear alert warnings so that I can contribute, for instance, to food insecurity assessment, like in the IPC, so the integrated phase classification, or the cadre harmonisé system. And the typical indicators the system works, I have listed a couple of them here. So the system will look at temperature, the number of hot days, the duration of the heat waves, minimum, maximum temperatures. Then we are working with the precipitation, the cumulates, the longest dry period. We look at the soil moisture, either from satellite or model base. And we look at derived biomass from Earth observation or modeled. And also very important, we want to assess the crop condition and the vigor, and this typically we do with proxies, which we derive from Earth observation data, or in deriving and calculating biophysical variables. And then there are also more complex indicators like drought indicators. But all these indicators need ideally be tailored to the presence of agricultural land, or even better, be crop specific, and they need to be put in relation to the respective crop development stages for a proper assessment. And if we now look at the information gap these global agricultural monitoring systems are facing, then we realize that all the information which is linked to spatial information, namely cropland maps, crop calendars, cropping intensity maps, crop type maps, are always critical to obtain. So this is based on a small survey we have done a couple of years ago in asking 8 of these global systems what they think is extremely critical or not so critical in terms of auxiliary data. And it evolves that we all have a constant need for this basic spatial agricultural information so that we can keep our systems up to date and that we can keep them to a tailored and valuable analysis. Now let's look at 2 systems a bit more in detail. The first one I would like to introduce is the early warning system of the Joint Research Center, which is a system to detect anomalies of agricultural production, and it's managed by my colleague Felix Rembold. So it's an online decision support system to further improve early warning of food production anomalies. And we contribute with this system to existing international initiatives like the IPC, the Global Report on Food Crisis, and different knowledge centers on food and nutrition security. And we are working also here together with the group on Earth observation on global agricultural monitoring, which is the GEOGLAM initiative, together with the World Food Programme, together with FAO and FuseNet, to have input in a crop monitor to assess the situation for food insecure countries. And in ASAP itself, here we work with satellite data and agrometeorological data. And we have 3 different levels or platforms. There is an overview, a hotspot analysis, where 80 countries are monitored at a monthly rhythm. And this is tailored to decision makers and policy analysts. Then as a second level and scale, there is the fully automated warning explorer, where every 10 days you get updated information at provincial level for all regions in the world. And last but not least, you can even look at each field based on Sentinel data in our high resolution viewer. This is the entry page. If you go to ASAP, you will see at one glance the hotspots that are identified at the moment. So this is the image now from yesterday with the assessment for April. And one of the hotspots at the moment for agricultural production, for instance, is Algeria. So you can go to the country page. You will see a brief summary of the situation based on our expert judgment, and a couple of indicators, as I've just shown before, where you can assess the situation. If you want to know more, and if you also are interested in more regional analysis, you can go to our Warning Explorer, where you see an assessment for the availability of water, for the growing conditions, and where you can update this knowledge every 10 days. So, and this is more dedicated for agricultural analysts. And finally, you can even look at the field level based on Sentinel-2 data. And here, this is targeted to agricultural analysts that have already a basic remote sensing experience. And with these 3 levels, we can do a full analysis, which is then provided, for instance, to the international phase classification and the crop monitor for early warning of GEOGLAM. But the data and the databases behind can be also used to make an analysis like this one, where you see the percentage of a growing period which has been affected by drought conditions during the years of 2004 and 2018. And these kind of analysis can be also important pieces of information for contingency planning. A short summary on kind of wrapping up the ASAP, let's say the ASAP qualification. So it's a completely free and online tool. Everybody is invited to visit this, and it allows a high level of user interaction. You can see and make use of the latest generation of Earth observation data. And we see already a really rapidly growing user community, and we have a close collaboration with many partners like FAO, USDA, ICPAP, and so on for our high resolution viewer and for also a wide range of applications like crop monitoring, land use changes, land surface changes. A second example is now from the GeoClam community, which is together with AMIS, one of the two initiatives to tackle food price volatility and promote market stability. And within GeoClam, let's say the whole agricultural monitoring community comes together, and in a monthly process, we consolidate results from our systems to come up with a common assessment on crop conditions worldwide. And this we do with the crop monitor for AMIS and with the crop monitor for early warning, as we said before. And here you see two examples of implementation. These are all the countries that are covered in the crop monitor for AMIS. We classify the conditions of the crop and we say which crop is concerned. And in a second map, we also indicate the drivers behind. For instance, if watch conditions are due to missing rain or delayed planting or over wet conditions. And all this is then accompanied by a 1 or 2 page analysis. And here you see the current state of monitoring by all the partners in the GeoClam network. In blue are the AMIS countries, which are monitored by the partners. So in case of Europe, they are monitored by the European Commission, the JRC, via the MAR system. This is monitored via the USDA. This is monitored via CONAP, Brazil, and so forth. And then we have the early warning countries, which are monitored by the World Food Programme, FuseNet, FAO, and JRC. And you see that we have a pretty good coverage at the moment, and we have also plans for enlargement to find also here national partners and to build capacity in these countries to scale up their capabilities of doing early warning and crop monitor. I now want to share just two short regional impact stories. One is from Europe. Beside the ASAP system, the JRC has also in place what we call the MAR system, which also allows for rapid assessments. And it was used in the last years to do a rapid assessment of pasture conditions across Europe and sustain the decision of the European Commission to offer further support to farmers in providing scientific evidence on the extreme severity of the drought conditions on pastures over the last 2 years. Another example directly from the food security complex is a national impact story from Uganda, where GeoClam worked with the Uganda office of the Prime Minister to develop a crop monitor that is run by Uganda itself in 2016. And this was already up and running in 2017. And in this year, the crop monitor provided 3 months early a warning of a likely crop failure due to drought. And so there was enough time to mitigate the loss and the damage. And here you see the maps that are provided, the one for the pasture and the one for the crops, where we have the conditions, which are here indicate crop failure. And we have the drivers like late planting and drought conditions. So this is very concrete and condensed information one can act upon. And having this information in due time or 3 months earlier triggered the disaster risk financing for the country, so they were capable of scaling up their public work projects and offsetting agricultural losses in Karamoja. And here is a quote from Martin Over, the Commissioner Office to the Prime Minister, stating that in the past we always reacted to crop failure, spending millions of shillings to provide food aid in the region. 2017 was the first time we acted proactively because we had clear evidence from satellite data very early in the season. And with this success story, I would like to conclude reiterating that early warning systems mainly concentrate on timely qualitative assessments of crop and pasture conditions based on meteorological and remote sensing data, and that the first system have been already developed in the 70s, but still some basic information as crop type maps or crop calendars are difficult to obtain to update the systems and to keep them updated. Early warning systems are mainly run and maintained by international or national bodies to support decision-making for emergency responses, like the European Union development policies, provide input to the international phase classification or cadre harmonisé for the assessment. And what is very important is the convergence of result of the different systems, since this is really key as all the systems rely on slightly different sources and they cover different aspects and indicators. And with this, I conclude my talk. And if you want to know more, I invite you to contact me or my colleague Felix Rembold. And here are, let's say, 3 internet addresses to explore further. Thank you very much.